This is Luke Paulson, the Catholic Conservative, and welcome to the news of the week for September 14th, 2024. And if you enjoy these videos, do not forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe for more. Russiagate 2.0. Merrick Garland is one of the most important operatives of the deep state.
So how do you define it?
Well, the way I would define the deep state is an increased willingness by more and more government civil servants to pursue political objectives rather than stand up for the values of the institution they're a part of. They are not neutral. They're not politically neutral.
As such, he has everything to gain from lying about imaginary Russia collusion. When Lawrence Southern supposedly created a media company to rival Conservative Inc., a lot of big names got on board. However, it turns out that the money was funneled through several shell companies. And in the end, the money all came from Russia. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, Merrick Garland has every reason to lie about the imaginary Russia collusion. However, even he is willing to admit that the creators who submitted content were unwitting pawns. However, Garland strategically waited until near the end of his statement to say this. By doing this, he ensured that all of the liberal rags and other fake news outlets would get their talking points, so that their reporting is technically correct.
The best kind of correct.
However, these commentators were just posting the normal material that they usually did. And if that commentary did not favor the military-industrial complex, that is not their problem. However, if someone got money from AIPAC to make sure that no one says anything negative about Israel, or if the money came from a certain Hungarian philanthropist to elect DAs that would not prosecute Black Crimes Matter, these would be acceptable uses of taking money from foreign interests. Speaking of taking money from foreign interests, Biden in court. Hunter Biden has been convicted on the gun charges, crimes that normal people would be locked away forever for. When Hunter and his father get involved with foreign interests, that is just fine. But President Trump cannot even have Russian salad dressing for dinner without the fake news calling it a connection to Russia. And when there is evidence that connects Brandon to all of the illegal activities, it will be declared Russian misinformation. In short, the media was protecting him. This all happens just as new trumped-up charges were filed against President Trump.
Coincidence? I think not!
All of this was done when Brandon was in the Oval Office. And even if Brandon was completely skipped over in a coup, for now he is still the President of the United States. We still must talk about the unlikable person that he was replaced with. A debate with Cackling Kamala. The 3-on-1 presidential debate was interesting, to say the least. President Trump had to debate two moderators and the woman who had 3.5 years to put into place everything that she said that she wants to. After all, we know that Brandon is not actually in charge. While there were many good points from President Trump, and many lies from Cackling Kamala, I will only highlight a few. Cackling Kamala took quotes out of context left and right, including Charlottesville, which even Snopes debunked. The woman interrupted President Trump twice to spew her lies, like how she started as a prosecutor for serious crimes. In reality, she got to where she was not based on her actual merits, but on other talents. Even so, she should not be very proud of this record after Tulsi Gabbard called her out on it. President Trump correctly stated that his policies created the best economy in a long time. Then the virus came and all of Brandon's jobs were bounce-back jobs. President Trump also correctly called abortion execution, and that the Supreme Court gave the authority back to the states. Then Cackling Kamala decided that people cannot get medical care in their state if Obamacare was removed. She apparently is unaware of a girl who was denied a lung transplant by Secretary Sebelius of the HHS. President Trump also claimed that the Haitians were eating pets after being dropped off by the Biden administration's military aircraft. Officially, the city manager said that this is not happening. But just as Garland has every reason to lie, so does this city manager. However, they do admit that the Haitians are eating the local waterfowl. All in all, President Trump did the best he could with all of the attacks against him. He is still dealing with the trumped-up charges that I mentioned a moment ago. Perhaps law enforcement was too busy with this and so they could not deal with Georgia. What the FBI knew. We now know, like most of these school shooters, that the FBI and other law enforcement agencies knew about the Georgia shooter in advance. Unlike other outlets, I choose not to name him or show his face. After it was confirmed by the FBI that several online threats of a shooting came from Georgia, the local authorities were alerted and then they moved on to the next case. However, local authorities in Georgia refused to act, and now 4 people are dead. Naturally, the same people who want to disarm Americans are already calling for people to be disarmed. Last week, I pointed out that when it comes to home intruders, the intruder is killed 2 to 4 times as often as the homeowner. What I did not mention is that the intruder is not always killed, because the intruder runs away. While there is no objective data, we know that roughly 80% of incarcerated burglars would not have attempted it if the homeowner was armed. This means that the intruder flees 80% or more of the time if the homeowner is armed. Now let us imagine that the schools use armed guards to protect the children. Those 4 people might still be alive. Instead of blaming the person, liberals will blame the gun. Now let us go to the other side of the world to see how modern liberalism works out in practice. CCP Victim Speaks Out. A victim of the CCP's organ harvesting scheme is speaking up. From what I can tell, he is the first one to publicly speak about it. Chung Pei-ming was left without the left lobe of his liver and a lobe of his left lung. This is what happens when only the government is armed. The Second Amendment over here exists not because our founding fathers wanted to go hunting, but because they had just won a revolution.
When a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and provide new guards for their future security. It means if there's something wrong, those who have the ability to take action have the responsibility to take action.
The Second Amendment exists in case the First Amendment fails. Speaking of which, Google is pro-Kamala. Zuckerberg recently admitted that Facebook censored topics regarding the pandemic. Color me shocked. Now we know, thanks to OMG, that Google has been controlling content for a pro-Kamala agenda. So ABC fact-checked President Trump while letting Cackling Kamala spew lies. Meanwhile, the main video hosting platform YouTube will curate the results with videos to cast her in a more favorable light. Meanwhile, she is resisting doing interviews except when they can be edited. On the other hand, President Trump is willing to give an interview to many people for over an hour, and for it to be live. Because Cackling Kamala has to hide, this is an excellent opportunity for President Trump to go out and correct all of her lies. It was a little hard to do that last time because of all of the imaginary crimes that they charged him with. And he was working to make America great again. Now he can spend all of his time debunking her lies and campaigning at the same time. Everyone wins except for Cackling Kamala, not that anyone cares about her. Now both she and her boss have claimed to have defeated Big Pharma by dropping the price of insulin by $2. However, there is a very dangerous drug that is on the market. Ozempic is illegal in Europe. Ozempic has a very catchy tune in their commercials, but it disguises poison. And I do not make that accusation lightly. The company that makes the drug is one of the most profitable in Europe, but Ozempic is illegal in Europe. Something about that just does not sound right. Either way, the NAACP is saying that fighting the drug is racist and discriminatory. What they are trying to not say is that they believe that more minorities are overweight than Caucasians. Furthermore, the medical industrial complex is pushing this as the first line of defense. Not exercise or a proper diet, just drugs. Lots and lots of drugs. The reason is that exercise and healthy eating does not make money. And if you are going to eat right, you are also not acting wisely. At least according to Time magazine. America is overweight. A once prestigious magazine now claims that eating super processed foods might not be as bad as you think. The problem is that it is worse than you think. If people listen to Time magazine, more people will be taking Ozempic. They should put Time magazine on their payroll. The government gives subsidies to the industries that produce this junk. These companies fund their re-election campaigns and thus the cycle repeats. The problem is manifold, but a large part of the problem is our diet. Grains were at the base of the food pyramid when I was a kid. It turns out that the grain industry is a big lobbying group. Combine that with the fact that processed grains are actually not that good for you, all things considered. They are not healthy not just because they are hard to digest because we are omnivores. They are not healthy because of how processed they are. Do they really want people to be unhealthy?
Yes.
Now, while they want us to be unhealthy, some people do not even want to wait until a child is born to kill him. A difficult choice. I mentioned a moment ago that President Trump called abortion execution, and he is right.
Absolutely, unequivocally right.
However, there is one problem with this. He supports IVF. This involves the killing of countless children. While they do not die in surgery, they are discarded as medical waste, or simply kept frozen forever. These are children. These are people. These are human beings. And to be treated like this is unfathomable. A lot of Christians want the elimination of all of these executions. However, we have a choice between Cackling Kamala, who will allow millions of children to die, or President Trump, who will allow hundreds of thousands to die. That is not an easy choice. We have tried eliminating abortion entirely, and it has failed at almost every turn, because people did not want to retain God in their knowledge, and their own foolish hearts were darkened. It is not that these people do not see that they are killing a child. Most just do not care about life. Sadly, the change that we need to make to save the most lives is going to have to be incremental. Maybe I'm just blowing smoke. Maybe I'm completely off my rocker, but that is just my opinion. And do not forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe for more. But before you go, on the left I have last week's video, but you may also enjoy the video on the right.